Hi everybody, it's Cathy, and I'm here with video number 7 in my series, Craft Fair Journals 2019, and these are inexpensive and simple journals to make to sell at your craft fairs at low costs, low prices. So let's get started. I'll show you what I've made one so far. It's 4 by 6, it's a small journal. Almost a mini journal. It has a 1.5 inch spine, and I put a little charm on it. I made this charm out of craft board and Mod Podge. I put it on with simply a clip that I curled. I have a flower embellishment, and then I have a little quote on the bottom with a rhinestone. It has a ribbon closure, and it has a little vellum type bag on the front. It has 2 signatures that are held in place with elastic, and in these little books I have a piece of deli paper, and then I also put in a little vellum type paper in both of them, and that is all I did. I kept these simple because the more embellishments and time you put into it, the more costly they would be. And I want to keep the costs very simple, very low. These are the little pads that I purchased at Dollar Tree to make the book, to make the journal. And you can get these. They come 2 in a pack for $1. And what I've done is taken them and I've removed the staples, and I'll go over that in a moment. You're going to need, for materials, you're going to need craft board, and I have some somewhere. Here it is. You can take one piece of 8.5 by 11 would be fine. We're going to use that. You're going to need, let's see, I actually, in this, it was wrong, correct. It was 2 pieces at 4.5 by 6, 1 piece at 1.5 by 6, and what you can do is just take a screenshot of these materials so you don't have to keep rewinding the tape, or as you listen, you can write down the measurements. Anyway, these are all the measurements and the paper that you need. You'll need cardstock. You'll need a little bit of scrapbook paper and other paper like the deli paper and the vellum type paper if you choose to do that. You also will need some sort of binding tape. I simply use the blue painter's tape when I bind books, and it works fine. You need glue, elastic. I always have a big roll on hand that I purchased at Joann Fabrics. It was half price, which was a good deal. You're going to need a hole punch. Now, I use my crocodile as a hole punch because I'm actually using the hole punch to make the holes for my binding. If you choose not to do that, you can use an awl, which is typical of what most people use for their bindings, or you can just use the hole punch. My hole punch has 2 settings, a larger hole and a smaller hole, and I'll be using the smaller hole. You need a corner rounder. I use this one by Memory Keepers. Obviously scissors, ribbon for the closure, or some sort of lace or something, and any sort of embellishments you'd like to add to your journal, and a bone folder would be a good idea. So let's get started. As I said, the first thing I did was remove the staples, and I'll be honest with you, I wanted to do it on camera, but I made a mistake and had to rewind, and I don't have any more of these. So anyway, remove the staples. They're very easy to remove. I simply put actually my Cricut tool underneath, lifted up the prongs, and then took it off from the outside. Very easy. The next thing we want to do is cut our craft board. And I said that the craft board piece needed to be 4.5 by 6. You're going to need 2 pieces of that. So I actually started it at 6 inches. Oops, sorry about that. I think I touched the... So all I do is I use my cutter. I cut one side, then I turn it over and make sure I cut the exact same place on the other side at 6 inches. And then what that does, it allows it to break very easily. And usually I won't get this. It's because I double cut it a minute ago when I recut it again. Then this is going to need, let's see how long this is. It's 8.5 inches. So actually we're going to make this 4.25 inch each. So let's find 4.25. I said 4.5. I was mistaken. It's 4.25. Hopefully I was mistaken, right? I turn it over. The exact same place. Cut it again. And this will tear much easier than the last time. Now I have 2 pieces that are 4.25 by 6. Remember, it's not 4.5. 4.25 allows you to get both pieces out of one piece of 8.5 by 11. Then I'm going to take this other piece, which is, we need to cut it at 1.5 inches. Turn it over, cut it at 1.5. This is going to be for the spine. I'm going to try cutting one more time, just to be sure. And I try to press down really hard when I do it. There we go. And then this needs to be cut down to 6 inches. And 6 inches on this side. And break that off. And there we go. These are the pieces we'll be using for our spine. Clean up this mess here. Okay, let's start with our spine. And it might help if I put another piece of craft board underneath so you can see it on the white. And I put these, I line them up and put these about 1/8 of an inch apart. Okay, now I'm going to take my blue tape. I'm doing that off camera here because I hang it on a roll on the side. And just to get it in place, I'm going to put it right down here to make sure everything's stable. Now I'm going to take it and run it up and down the spine. Just like that. And I just take my fingernail that I really don't have and make sure I get it inside in between the spine and the covers. Don't worry about the overhang. I'm going to cut that off in a moment. And one more piece for good luck. I'm going to put that right here. And you want to lift this up. You want to fold it and kind of get it in between the pieces. I'm going to take my scissors and cut off the excess. But I'm going to do that after I put tape on the back as well. And I'm going to go right down the spine. And right down this spine on this side. And here you can use your bone folder if you want. Okay. And I'm just going to gently, I'm going to fold it back and forth. And then I'm going to cut this off. And quick and easy, we have our binding. And before we punch our holes, we want to cover this. And I've already cut a piece out, and I made it 7.5 by 12. That's so that I have some excess to be able to fold over. So I want this to be on the bottom. Right now it doesn't really matter which is the bottom or top. So I'm going to put glue on here. And normally you can use the double-sided tape if you'd like. You can use adhesive. I'm just going to use this glue, which works fine. You want to make sure you get it up to the edge. You want to make sure you get it into the binding, even inside those little crevices, because you want your paper to be able to stick in all the spots. Whoops. And I'm going to do this. Okay. Make sure that's good and strong. And now you just want to gently bend it so that the paper gets used to bending. Don't rush into this part, because especially because we're using cardstock, you don't want it to crack. So take your time with it. Now what I like to do to get ready to bend it I'm going to cut a triangle, a sliver of a triangle, right at the bend. What that does, it takes some of the bulk out when you go to bend it. And I'm going to do that at both ends. I'm also going to take out a wet wipe because I forgot. And I always like to use a wet wipe or cloth to get up any excess glue. So again, I'm going to cut just a sliver. And you want to get it as right up to that bend line, that score line. Okay. Clean my scissors off. Okay. So next, I still want to press this down because it was getting a little funky with the glue. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to not fold this all the way. I'm just going to get it used to being bent. So when I actually go to bend it, it won't crack. And the next thing I do is I want to miter the corners. So I want to stay away from the very edge of the book by about 1/8 of an inch. There. 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 And there. Okay. So now we're ready to glue and bend. We've got this kind of ready. I'm going to start with these. First. You want to make sure you get all the way to the edge. I'm going to bend that in first. And here as well. I put a little too much glue in there. The one thing about this art glitter glue, you don't need to use a lot of it. And I like to put in my ends after I do my insides, so I'm going to do that. And we're going to cover all this with another piece of paper. So I'm going to do this rather quickly. We're going to go in, 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 and fold it in. Whoop. A little too quickly, huh? Press it down good. Now what you want to make sure you do when you fold in the outer piece, you want to take your bone folder and make sure your corners are in as well. So what I do is I kind of score them so they're going to fold with the outer flap. Okay, and then I'm going to turn this around. And we're going to make sure those fold in. Looks good so far. Nice and clean. And the other side isn't nice and clean. I have some glue there. We're going to do the same thing. Okay, so there is our binding, our cover. And I can take this away, put it back. The next thing we want to do is a couple of things. We want to put in our closure, our ribbon closure, which I honestly forgot to take out after telling you that you all needed it. I need to get something that will look pretty with that. So I'm thinking, oh, I don't have enough blue. Wouldn't that have been pretty? Because it kind of picks up the blue. Okay, well, let's see here. I'll have to punch. I have a lot of ribbon, but boy, you can never find the ribbon you want to use when you need it, right? Let's see what I have in here. I might have some pretty lace ribbon, which I think I'm going to have to go with. I don't know if I have enough, but we'll see. Okay, I think I do have enough. I'll have to use this color, which is pretty too. And there's plenty. So on this side, I'm going to take a ribbon about, ooh, that's probably even too long. It's going to be about, let's see, how many inches? Probably about 11 inches long. You can make it a little shorter than that, actually. Maybe about 10 inches long each. And cut that in half. And next, we're going to glue it. I want to make sure I'm getting the same side down. So I want the little scalloped edge down. And I put it about 1/2 inch away from the edge of the book. And we're going to just put that down. And the same goes on this side. I just eyeball it, make sure I get it in the right place. Here you can be generous with the glue. Okay, next thing we want to do is put our cover pieces in while we're here. And I'm going to use these two pieces I've already cut. They're cut to 3 3/4 by 5 3/4. And that's simply so they'll cover the ribbon, cover the majority of the cardboard here, but not restrict the bending of the book. So if you center it, on your cover, probably about 1/8 inch away from the edge and the top and the bottom. Do the same thing on the other side. I call this a cover plate. I don't know what it's called. Make sure it's going the correct, whoa. I went to pull it away and look what I did. Oh my. Let me try again. Put this back where it was. Scalloped edge down. And quickly put this down before it dries. And make sure you get it good, varnish it good right around, is it burnish it well, right around the ribbon. Now, some people don't do this, but I like to cover up this entire piece. So I'm going to find a scrap. I thought I cut a scrap, but maybe I didn't. Let's see, notebook cover. Here it is. Inside spine. And I am going to first, I don't want it to be right in that, whoops. I don't want it to sit right in the score. So I'm going to cut it just inside the score. So it'll cover up some of this. And I'm going to glue it there. The same way. And then I'm also going to cut this in half. I'm just trying to cover up as much of that as I can. And what I actually should have done is I should have put a piece of regular scrapbook paper underneath the cover plates. So when you do it on your own, make sure you do that. Then you don't have to be, doing what I'm doing now. But it's okay, it'll still look fine. You won't even see this. And I make sure I match up the tops and the bottoms. Okay. And now we have our completed cover. Now we want to get to our holes for our elastic. Okay, so here's what we have so far. We have the cover, we put in the ribbons, we have our inside cover covered. And actually, before we do the holes for the cover, we have to cover our notebook, our little pad. And because we took the staples out, we can simply remove the pad and work right on the cover. And all you have to do here is cut regular paper. Don't use cardstock. You don't need it. 8 1/4 by 6. And we're going to cover this cover the cover. And you're just covering the outside. And you want to match up the bottom and the sides. Actually, the tops too, but that'll be matched automatically if you cover the rest, if you match up the rest. Make sure you get that glue good and spread out. Okay, I'm going to get rid of that. And I always like to make this paper a little bigger, just in case. Sometimes the measurements of some of these things you buy at Dollar Tree, or actually anywhere for that matter, are not exact measurements. So I always make it a little bigger, knowing that I can just trim it off. Clean my scissors. And then I'm going to give that a second to dry. And then I'm going to round the corners. Let's do the other pad as well. And I have another piece of paper already cut. As I said, it was 8 1/4 by 6. This time I'm just going to put the glue on here. That'll save me from getting glue on my scissors, maybe, huh? And I'm not worrying about getting as close to the edge because when I burnish it, I'll make sure it gets all around. Okay. Much better. And let's trim it. And let's take our corner rounder, and we're going to use the 1/2 inch side. Some glue boogies. Do you ever get glue boogies? It's glue that actually gets dirty and looks like boogies. Aren't you happy I'm sharing that? And let's round the corner of the first one. Okay, now we're going to put our pad back into our binding little cover. And the same here. And I'm actually going to remove a page because it got all yucky. And we're going to set that aside. Next, we're going to figure out where the holes are going to go. And what I do for this is I'm just actually the first one I did, this one, I made 3 holes. I didn't really need 3 holes. So this time I'm only making 2 holes for each because it's such a light journal. I think two holes. Let's see. Let me think this through again. What happened the first time is I made it, and you'll notice even though I have 3 holes in the spine, I only have 2 holes at either side, and then I simply use the 3rd hole to pull it tight. Now I'll be honest with you, the reason I did that is because the elastic that I have is too thick to be able to get it through that middle hole again because I don't have a needle this size. So I'm going to try this one with just the 2 holes. And I'm going to measure how far down. Because I'm using smaller paper in the inside of the journal, I need to come in a little farther than I typically would. So I came in about 1.5 inches. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to come in at 1.5 inches, grab a pencil, and measure 1.5 inches. First I'm going to measure, let's see, I'm going to measure 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch away from the edge on the right. And I'm measuring right from the score line, from the bending part. And I'm going to measure 1/2 inch away from the other side. Now I'm going to measure 1.5 inches up. And I'm measuring 1.5 inches up from the edge of the book. And 1.5 inches up would be right here. So we're going to go right there for one. I'm lining it up with the first hole that I made. And we're going to measure 1.5 inches up from the second one. And we're going to go right there. And we're going to do the same thing here. I'm not going to bother measuring 1.5 inches over because I already have that lined up. So I'm at 5, so I'm going to come down to 4. And I'm going to line it up again. And I'm going to come in at 4. Whoop, something went wrong. Eek. Let's try again. 1.5 inches. Too much. We're going to go 1.5 inches in. Line it up with those. 1.5 inches would be right here. Actually right here. And we're going to come 1.5 inches, line it up with the first one, and that's going to be right here. Okay, so I'm going to punch those holes, and then I'm going to make a template for the pad. And as I said, I'm using this, my Crocodile. And I love this machine. It was worth every penny. I was lucky I got it on sale. 40% off. It's funny, if you go into Michael's, I got it at Michael's. If you go into Michael's and you try to use a 40% off coupon, they told me I couldn't use it. And even though it was regular price, they said it was some sort of everyday value or something. So I went on Michael's online and used my coupon online and got it 40% off. So ha-ha to them, right? Okay, now what I want to do before I punch the holes in the pad is I'm going to take a card and I'm going to line it up to this fold mark, and I'm going to make a template for the pads. And all I'm doing is simply making the holes. Okay? And remember, this side was, whoop, that's a little crooked. I don't think it's, oh, it is crooked. Oh, well, okay. You want to be a little straighter than I was. Okay. Now, what I want to do actually is I'm going to fold this paper right on the first 2 dots. I'm doing that so when I lay it in my pad over here, I'll be able to punch those holes. You want to make sure you have the top to the top and the bottom at the bottom. Okay, then I'm going to take my Crocodile and have at it. Sometimes it's hard to see using this Crocodile. They almost need to have a little, I don't know, little see-through window or something. The reason I love this so much is because it goes through a lot of layers. Okay, so I have one done. And let's do the other one. And for the other one, I'm going to take the other hole because I want to make sure that it's going to match up. And you see how crooked these are. Geesh. I don't know what I was doing. But it's okay. The elastic will have a little give. And the same thing. Fold, whoops, fold those with this in the center. Make sure my paper, oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to add the deli wrap, which I meant to do. So I'm going to do that really quickly with this one. And I wanted this in the middle as well. So I'm going to add the deli wrap somewhere over here. Put this back in. And then add this pretty dragonfly vellum type paper in the center. Now I'm going to punch my holes. And let's go. Okay. Next. Perfect there. Let me put the deli wrap in the other one. Fold it in half. Am I getting this all messed up for you guys? Let me clean up my mess over here. Okay. I can work in a mess. Some people can't. And I love this piece of vellum type. It says hope on it. I think that's so pretty. And that was a digital image that I Xeroxed, or not Xeroxed, I printed on tracing paper. And then I sprayed with clear coat. So, this doesn't help me, does it? I need to cut it using this. Actually, I'm going to use a regular hole punch. Actually, this was the first one. There we go. Sorry about this, guys. I'll cut this off so that I can get to it. There we go. Cut it off. So I can get to it. Okay. Now we have that, and I didn't do it with the deli. We're going to skip the deli for this one, so I don't take up any more of your time. I can always put deli paper in with washi tape. Okay, so next, we're going to cut a piece of elastic. And because we're only going twice, you don't need a whole lot. This is probably even going to be too much. I'm going to take the first signature, and I'm going to go down through the pad, through the pad cover, through, make sure I have the right side. Ooh, it's so pretty. Isn't that paper pretty? And down. Then I'm going to pull it, leaving a little tail. I'm going to go up through the bottom, up through the cover. Oop, I don't want it to come out. Where are you? Up through the cover. Up through the pad. Up through the vellum. Okie doke. And you want to make sure it's straight as you can get it. And you also want to make sure, the thing with using elastic or anything like this is if you pull one side too tight, it could make it come over the edge on the other side. So you want to be careful when you're doing that. And we're just going to tie it. Not too tight. Just making sure on the back it's kind of tight. And let me try again. This is always the hardest part. Okay. And what I didn't do that I should have, I didn't burnish the pad very well before when I finished it, and I should have done that. Okay, we have one in. I want to make sure this is strong enough. Now we're going to come in with the other and another piece of elastic. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go down through the top hole. Down through the top hole of the cover. Down through the top hole of the binding. And back up. Up through the cover. Up through the pad. Easy peasy. Up through the pretty paper. Okay. Give them both a gentle tug. Make sure it's straight. Oops. Check the back to make sure it's tight, and it's good to go. Whoop. I think that's going to be too loose. Oh no, that's fine. And we're going to trim these. Normally, if it wasn't thick elastic like this, I would have dangled something, but it's really, the elastic's too thick. I would recommend using a thinner elastic on these little ones than I did. And let's put it in place. Whoops. So let's see what we've got. I have to play with that a little bit to make sure it lines up. But, okay, we have the cover. We have the closures. We have 2 signatures. Let's close it up. And now what you want to do is, I always like to put a little charm. So I'm going to take my hole punch and I'm going to punch a hole up top here between the 2 signatures, right at the top, probably about a ½ inch down. Try to get it centered right in the middle. Actually, that's like a ½ inch, which is even better. And then I'm going to take a paper clip, just a regular old paper clip, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to fold it through the hole. Easier if I look at it, I suppose. I'm going to bend this piece over. And before I bend it over, I'm going to take this piece, I don't know if you can see, and I'm going to bend it around as if I was bending it at the end of beading something. And why I'm doing that, this serves as the holder for my charm in a moment. So I want to make sure it stays in place. Then I'm going to pull this down. I'm actually going to cut it off a little bit. Then I'm going to curl this end. But before I curl it all the way, I want to take out a charm. Let me grab my charms. And I have lots of charms here. I have domino charms. They're a little bit too big. And I have these charms that I made, pardon me, out of craft board. So I'm going to use that one, I think. Although this one's pretty with the red. So let me use that one. And then I'm going to take it. I had already made these and added some little beads at the end. I'm going to put this on the paper clip. And then I'm going to fold this around so that it's going to stay in place. Oop, I don't want to break it. But if I do, that would be okay because it's only a paper clip. Let me do this the right way, because I actually want it. There we go. Now I'm going to push this in and then close it up. Close it up well. Okay. And then I'm going to take, these tools come in handy. They're not expensive. And you can make little charms with them. I'm not a jewelry maker, as you can tell. But it has let me learn to dangle things from my jewelry, dangle jewelry from my books. Okay, so next is, let's see, I wanted to add this bag to the inside cover because I think it's such a pretty bag. And again, I made these from printed images on tracing paper that I sprayed with a clear coat from Home Depot, but they're even pretty if you don't clear coat them. And you can make tons of them from one package of tracing paper, and it's much cheaper than glossine bags, frankly. So let's see if I can get my glue to work. Okie doke. I always keep, if you guys know me, I keep my needle, my pen, and my eraser to clear out my glue. And we're just going to stick that in the front. And that is it, except for the cover. I'm not going to do any more embellishments on the inside. What I'm going to do at the craft fair is sell a package, a small package of embellishments. And I'm going to sell this as kind of a plain journal to add your own. I am going to put a little flower here. And let me get a flower out. Let's see what I have. I think I'm going to use one of these pink ones. Although, this blue one might not be bad. No, it's lost in the background because the paper is so dark and beautiful. So I'm going to use this one, which I think looks pretty. I'm going to put that right there. Bend it up a little bit. Kind of goes with that pink ribbon. Then I want to put some sort of a saying here. And I think I can do it in black. Let's see, what do I want to say? Follow your heart? Oh, how about collect beautiful moments? I think that's pretty. I'm going to put that down here because I don't want it to be that visible, but I want it to kind of just be there. And then I'm going to add a little rhinestone to it. Let's see. I guess we'll go with a red one because red's over there too. And plop that down. And that is it. Let me show you how I would package it. I use clear bags. If you go to clearbags.com, they have tons of different sizes. Because I didn't anticipate making this size, although I really like this size journal because folks can put it in their pocketbooks easily, or book bags or whatever. So that being said, I don't have the exact bags that I would like, but these work fine. I'm going to package them, I think, like this. That on top. And all the way over. And then these are self-adhesive, so we'll just fold it all the way over. And then I always like to put on a Handmade with Love sticker. And these I would probably charge maybe anywhere between $8 and $10, but no more than that. The more embellishments I would put in, the higher I would go, and probably the highest I would go with something like this with embellishments would be $15. But I figure for, let's say I charge $10 for it. They have a charm, it has a flower, it has that nice bag, it has 2 signatures, and it's a hardcover journal. So, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and happy crafting. Take care. Bye-bye.